Hello, everybody. This is Michelle Jones, and I am so excited to welcome you to today's workshop. I am actually even more excited than typically because we have a very, very special guest with us today. We have Dr. Beth Fradys, and Dr. Beth Fradys is one of the very influential people in lifestyle medicine. And I will say hi for right now. And then we will cover a little bit more about all the amazing things that she's involved in. But first, let's take care of all of our technical stuff. So, of course, most of you know who Amy is, but Amy in today's workshop is going to be taking care of the technical side. So she has a couple tips for you.
Hey everybody, this is technology, so it's great when it works perfectly, but it doesn't always work that way. And us three, we are at different locations as well. So if you have issues connecting, one of the first things you can do is just refresh your screen. So if you can't hear us or see us, refresh your screen. That could even happen for us. So if we pop off, just let us give us a second and we'll pop back on and just kind of even refresh our connection. If you have questions, I hope you have some great questions, and I know you'll have some along the way in this one. Find the chat, say hello, tell us where you're joining us from. And I see a bunch of people, Fort Myers, Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, Utah, so all over. And we are so glad to have you here with us today. I think other than that, the questions is a great place. We're going to have a time for live Q&A at the end to cover as many of your questions as we possibly can. So thanks for being here today. We're glad to have you.
Yep, make sure that you put your questions in the chat. Amy and I will tag them, and after Dr. Fradys finishes her presentation, we'll go through and tackle as many questions as we can.
And I'm also going to go ahead and add the handout, because if you haven't downloaded the handout yet, go ahead and do that now. It's going to be a great tool for this workshop.
Yes, definitely. You will want to fill that out. So Dr. Beth Fradys is a trained physiatrist and a health and wellness coach with expertise in lifestyle medicine. She's an award-winning teacher at Harvard Medical School, where she's an assistant clinical professor. Dr. Fradys is one of the first fellows of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine and a pioneer in lifestyle medicine. She developed and taught a college lifestyle medicine curriculum at the Harvard Extension School in 2014, and it's still one of the most well-received courses offered at the school. She was voted president of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine in August of 2020, and she will serve as president-elect until 2022. Dr. Fradys authored a lifestyle medicine syllabus, which can be downloaded through the ACLM website, to serve as a template for other instructors and professors. In addition, Dr. Fradys co-authored the Lifestyle Medicine Handbook, an introduction to the power of healthy habits, which was ranked in the top 20 by Book Authority for medical books released in 2018. To accompany the syllabus and handbook, she also co-created Lifestyle Medicine 101, a full college curriculum with 12 weeks of PowerPoints and a teacher's manual, which is free and accessible through the ACLM website. In addition, Dr. Fradys co-authored the Teen Lifestyle Medicine Handbook, published in October of 2020, which, when paired with the teen curriculum consisting of a teacher's manual and 12 PowerPoint decks, can be used to teach and empower middle school and high school students to adopt and sustain healthy habits. As Director of Wellness Programming at the Stroke Institute for Research and Recovery at Spaulding Rehabilitation Hospital, a Harvard Medical School affiliate, Dr. Fradys has created and implemented a 12-step wellness program, Paving the Path to Wellness, for patients and providers. Most recently, she co-authored the book Paving the Path to Wellness Workbook, a guide to thriving with a healthy body, peaceful mind, and joyful heart. As of the fall of 2020, Dr. Fradys serves as the Director of Lifestyle Medicine and Wellness for the Department of Surgery at Mass General Hospital. In addition, Dr. Fradys has her own lifestyle medicine consulting coaching practice, where she sees patients one-on-one and in groups. I am so pleased to have you here with us today, Dr. Fradys. That is a lot of, those are a lot of projects, amazing projects that you're involved with. And we really appreciate you taking the time to walk us through purpose and, again, paving this path to wellness.
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle and Amy and Full Plate Living, everyone in this community, for embracing me and bringing me in to speak today. It truly is an honor and a delight to be with you. I have a strong sense of purpose, and you'll figure out why as we continue to be together and share information together. Feel free to pop information about yourself in the chat if something's resonating with you. And if indeed right this moment you feel a strong sense of purpose and you want to share it with folks, you can go ahead and chat. There'll be other times, I call them waterfall times, where we'll be able to share in the chat. Here is what I like to think about as the holistic approach to well-being. I am in lifestyle medicine, so if that's new to you, I will share with you the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. They're included in this wellness wheel. Physical activity is one, nutrition is another pillar of lifestyle medicine, sleep is a third, stress resiliency is a fourth. The 5th is social support and social connection. And then the 6th pillar, which I talk about in the step of energy, has to do with the use of substances. So in lifestyle medicine, we try to eliminate or moderate the use of risky substances. Now, I've been working this framework for over a decade or more, really. And I know that the healthy body is essential, as do you. You know the importance of exercise, of nutrition, and of sleep for a healthy body. Likely you're working on stress resiliency. We've all been through a lot the past couple of years, and we talk a lot about stress as a community, and we are working towards reducing that and trying to harness the power of eustress or flow. So what we talk about a little bit less is our attitude and how our attitude has an impact on our health, but it really does. So I'll quickly share with you gratitude and positivity and a growth mindset where mishaps are an opportunity to learn and grow are wonderful attitudes to bring along on your journey to optimal well-being. Time outs, taking a pause and reflecting. And by the way, all of you have taken time, likely time out from your busy day. Perhaps even this is your lunch break from work. So you're taking a time out from your average everyday life to come and join me and the rest of this community here to discuss purpose. The energy, we want to harness natural sources of energy. And this could be magnesium from nuts. We get a lot of wonderful energy from whole food, plant-based eating. Sleep and exercise gets us energy, but you know what else? Friends, social connection, inspiration from talks could also give us energy. And that social support pillar for this paving the path to wellness, as well as the pillar for lifestyle medicine, has become ever so prominent since the COVID lockdowns. Back in 2012, when I first started talking about this paving the path to wellness wheel, social connection was not quite as honored, shall I say, as it is now. Here we go. This is our topic of the day, purpose. How our sense of purpose can help us with our energy levels, can even help us with our lifestyle goals, with our nutrition goals, with our exercise goals, our sleep goals. When we have a sense of purpose and we know our priorities, and we can align our activities and the time we spend in them with our priorities and then connect them to our purpose, we generally have less stress and we can find more flow to the day. We do need to think about action steps. This is healthy body, peaceful mind, joyful heart. Some could call this soulful or spiritual work when we're in the joyful heart quadrant of paving the path to wellness, where we're going to reside a little bit today with purpose. The action steps, setting goals, SMART goals, specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, time-sensitive, are key. And then using this whole opportunity while you're in your journey of well-being to experiment with things. Good for you to come to this topic on purpose, this lecture on purpose, where we're talking about a topic that isn't always highlighted in wellness work, but is so essential, as you will see after today. investigating, trying this on. You came here to test something out, see how it goes. And then I'm going to give you ample work that you could take on. It's an opportunity to explore sense of purpose. We do need a variety in our lives. We need a variety of exercise, variety of phytonutrients, and a variety of stress reduction techniques, variety of friends, a variety of ways to think about purpose. So I'm going to share with you multiple quotes today. See which one resonates with you on the topic of purpose. I would be delighted to know which one you really want to take home with you. Maybe write it down. All right, let's take just a pause. Everyone take a big, deep breath in and out. Let's start our journey. If you were able to download the Paving the Path to Wellness Wheel, which I co-created with Harvard Health Publications in 2016, then you've seen these questions specifically on purpose, which I'll read out loud for you to contemplate and consider. I feel that I have a clear purpose in life. This may or may not be true for you right now in this very moment. Let's see how you feel at the end of this talk and in a week or 2 weeks, a month, 6 months, a year. I'm able to prioritize my activities and projects easily. I coach a lot of patients, and some of my patients are physicians. And this is a key piece and factor in daily thriving, productivity, creativity, and well-being. I make sure that my activities and projects are in alignment with my values, my core values. I have identified the people and activities that are most important to me. Question I have for you now, you can think about it in your mind, share it in the chat, whatever you like. What do you cherish most in this world right now? What do you cherish? What do you hold dear? I'm using my strengths to fulfill my purpose. Now, if you don't know your purpose, then think about what are your strengths? Your own unique strengths. And how are you utilizing them? Day in, day out. Are you using them? At home, at work, on the weekends, with family, with friends, with colleagues, with projects? Are you using your strengths? All right. We think about purpose, we think about a vision of ourselves. How do you see yourself in 10 years, 20 years? I'm not necessarily talking about what job do you see yourself doing, but sure, you can think about that. I'm thinking about what do you see when you see yourself in 20 years? Where are you located? In what vicinity? In what area? How are you talking? What are you talking about? Who's around you? What's your work if it's not paid for? What's your daily routine like? Who are you serving? Think about a mission statement. What's your mission in life? I'll share some of this with you as we go through. Key to think about our core values: integrity, honesty, compassion, respect. These things, I'm throwing some possibilities out for you, but you may have some on the tip of your own tongue. And then your priorities at this point in your life right now. Some of you may be in your early 20s and you're just getting your first job. Some of you may be early career. Some of you may be in a marriage and have children. Some of you may have grandchildren. Some of you may be nieces. Some of you may be aunts. Some of you may be pet owners. A lot of times our priorities are around those that we spend the most time with. So think about that. What's your main priority right now? Now here's a wonderful quote. I love this one on purpose. The purpose of life is not to be happy. It is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to make some difference that you've lived and lived well. You may or may not agree with the quotes I'm sharing, but I'm sharing a variety of quotes for you to consider. Here's one. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. If we take a man as he is, or a woman as she is, we make him or her worse. But if we take him or her as he or she should be, then we make him or her capable of becoming what they can be. So when you treat people the way you know they can be, even if they're misbehaving right now, or if they're perhaps not letting their beauty shine forward, if you provide them opportunities where they can use their strengths and they can be the person that is using all their strengths and shining, if you give them those opportunities and treat them in that way, then they can live into it. That's a beautiful concept. Here's Viktor Frankl. Everyone has his own specific vocation or mission in life. Everyone must carry out a concrete assignment that demands fulfillment. Therein, he cannot be replaced, nor can his life be repeated. Thus, everyone's task is unique, as is his specific opportunity to implement it. So we all have unique strengths. We all have a unique opportunity to make the world a better place in some way, to contribute in some way. Very much like Viktor Frankl's work, if you don't know it, it fits right in here with the topic of purpose. Look at the title of his book, Man's Search for Meaning. It's a very short book, and I think you will enjoy it. He uses this quote unquote mathematical equation for despair. D equals S minus M. What does it mean? Despair equals suffering minus meaning. So they're suffering. They're suffering in this world. They're suffering in our lives. If you've lived past, I don't know, 3, 2, maybe even 1, you've experienced some suffering, right? We all experience some suffering. But when we make some meaning out of it, then we avoid falling into despair. So one idea is when we are suffering, we need to work through that. And then if we can say to ourselves, and what does this tell us? What does this teach me? And what can I use this for? How do I reach higher ground having experienced this particular suffering? So now this is what I call the waterfall. When I say the word purpose, just that word, and you came to this talk on purpose, what were you thinking? What's the first word that comes to your mind when I say purpose? What do you say? Anybody can just chat on it.
Meaning, life goal. Somebody said, "What's mine?" Which is good. That's actually when I thought of when I first saw it. What I'm meant to do. My reason for existing, deeper sense of being, living, reason for being. Why am I here? What I get for every day. Mission in life.
Beautiful.
Those are good. For my family, what I'm made to be or do. How you can make a difference. Very good ones.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And we are creating a community. You have the Full Plate Living community. And when you share like this, people get to know you. And then we can build upon the words that you've shared right here and now. So thank you for that. I'll tell you that I didn't really think about purpose much until I was at Stanford Medical School. So I guess I was 27 or so. I was one of those people just on the treadmill, right? Go to high school, college, then go to medical school, and just keep going on the treadmill, almost without thinking why I'm doing what I'm doing necessarily. But I will tell you, there was an important event in my life, and a lot of us have these, an event that I guess was transformational for me. And it was suffering, actually. And it's interesting that I'm so fascinated with that. Despair equals suffering without meaning. So there was some suffering for me, deep suffering when I was 18. And it was at that time, my own dad was 52. I was very close to my family, still am, of course, but he at 52 had a heart attack and a stroke and was left paralyzed on his left side. Some of you may be 52. I'm over that now, but It was jarring. It was the first time I thought about health and human well-being. And I really had to think about life and what I wanted to do, because up until then I was going to take over my own dad's business, because his dad started a business in New York City, and then I was going to be the next generation, right? I was going to be that third generation to take over financial advising and accounting. And I love numbers, so that seemed like a great thing to do until that time when my dad had the heart attack and stroke. And then I became very, very interested in how do we live well, and how do we prevent strokes? How do we prevent heart disease? How do we prevent these health setbacks that are killing us? Our number one cause of death is heart disease. So I researched stress, I researched nutrition, exercise, all these pillars of lifestyle medicine. And I made it my mission to share this with others, to learn as much as I can and to share it with others. So I went on the journey to medical school, and it was when I was a fourth year medical student that Dr. Sam LeBaron, he sat us down after family medicine rotation. We saw patients with him, and then we sat down at a big oval table, and he asked us, there were 10 of us in the rotation, 10 of my fellow students. He said, I'd like you all to write your obituary. I mean, what? I didn't think this was appropriate. I didn't want to do that. I thought it was tempting fate. And by the way, I'm not a rebel. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not a rebel. So this is probably the very first time in my life I refused to do something. And to be honest, I'm not sure what I was thinking, but I will tell you that this got me, and I didn't want to do it. 9 of the other students, they busily wrote out, this was pen and paper days, there was no computer. They busily wrote out their obituaries. And I just stood and sat and looked and, tapped my fingers, didn't do anything. Dr. Sam LeBaron, Beth, you seem to be having trouble with this. Yeah, I'm not going to do it. Oh no, that's fine. He said, you don't need to do it. It's an opportunity. You don't have to participate. So I was thinking, yeah, that's right. And I'm not going to, because I'm not going to die. I want to live. So I don't want to write my obituary. What kind of a project is this? So I then listened to my fellow students, the 9 of them, share their obituaries, and they were very moving. And they actually informed mission for each of these friends of mine. We were very close. There were only 8 of us, and 80 of us, 8 in this class, or 8 to 10 per class when we were in rotations. But our whole grade, our whole medical school class was only 80. So we knew each other very well because we were always put in these small groups. And I was really, really moved, honestly, by these. And so here is Stanford, and I would jog the dish. If you've been to Stanford, many people do jog, and they jog up these foothills to the dish right here. And I will never forget this. Right now, I'm there. It's like yesterday. I didn't do the assignment, as I told you. Big rebel, Beth Frates, not doing the assignment. And I jogged up the foothills like usual, and suddenly it struck me. I was just getting up to the top here where there's the dish, and I said, Beth Peg, which is my maiden name, Beth Peg dies at 104, jogging up the foothills of a heart attack, and leaves behind her loving husband of 60, 70 years, whatever I said, and children, and patients and friends and colleagues who are so thankful for having known her, because she helped them lead healthier lives. And this has just always been in my mind, help people lead healthier lives. So I share this with you because this exercise of writing your obituary, which I thought was crazy back in the 90s, is actually something that many people who are in psychology and who work with others to help them find their purpose, they use this very exercise to think about your own obituary. Now, I will share with you, Dad recovered fully, in case somebody's wondering about what happened to Dad. Dad did recover fully at 52. The fine motor movement of the left hand didn't fully come back, so he would drop dimes and such, but he made a complete lifestyle change. And he lived 27 fabulous years afterwards. So he has passed away, and now I've written his obituary and my mother's obituary. So it is a way to connect with meaning when you have to write one for others. And also when you have the opportunity to think about what yours might say. Here's a quote I want to share with you. Our prime purpose in this life is to help others. And if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them. So some of you may think about first do no harm, which is what we swear to when we become physicians, and we promise when we become physicians. Primum non no sere. Anyone know Latin? If you want to unmute and say that for me, but first do no harm. Now, I've talked about purpose. We've given it sort of a flowery terminology. We've given it life and imagery. We're going to get a little tiny bit concrete now. I'm going to bring it down to the concrete rocks. All right. Definitions of purpose. The reason why something is done or used, the aim or intention of something. The feeling of being determined to do or achieve something. The aim or goal of a person. What a person is trying to do, to become, maybe to contribute. So this is where we're focused on this definition. So I'd like to ask now, I have no idea, we could have some people in the audience here who have PhDs in psychology and have studied purpose in a deep way. And we could have some people that really haven't thought about it yet. So I'm just asking all of you, no matter where you are in that spectrum, do you think there are research studies investigating a sense of purpose and health outcomes? Do you think scientists have said, well, if someone has a high, strong sense of purpose, then they'll be healthier, or maybe won't have Alzheimer's, or they'll live longer? Or do you think there's any research, scientific evidence behind this area? Anybody, yes or no? Just share. No one's graded in this, by the way. So if you say something, don't worry. It's just, what are you thinking right now? Do you think there are research studies?
It's mostly yeses. And then a couple comments. One said, I think no, but I'm hoping yes. And somebody said, well, if there isn't, then there should be. So the majority yeses.
Okay, well, guess what? You're right. Yes. And of course, I love research and I love digging deeply into this. So I'm going to share it with you so you don't have to dig too deep. You can just read. All right, purpose and health outcomes. This is what we know. People with purpose live longer, have a lower risk of cognitive decline, have a lower risk of disability, and have positive relations with others. Fascinating how this area of purpose has an influence on our health and on the pillars of lifestyle medicine, social connections. When we have a sense of purpose, positive relations with others. Now, eudaimonic well-being, eudaimonic sense of well-being. You have this if you have a sense of control, feeling that what you do is worthwhile. And this sense of well-being comes when you have a sense of purpose. So in this particular study that was reported out in Lancet, a journal in our medical literature, there were 4 categories of people with regards to their sense of well-being. They were followed over 8 years. There were 9,050 people from England, average age of 65 in the study. Those that were in, remember, there were 4 categories. Those that were in the highest well-being category over the course of the 8 years, only 9% passed away, died. Lowest well-being category, again, out of the 9,000 over the course of 8 years, 29, a third of those died in the course of the 8 years. People in the highest well-being category lived 2 years longer than those in the lowest, on average, in this study. Now, let's talk about ikigai, which is the Japanese term for reason for being, reason for getting up in the morning. It's a sense of meaning. It's your purpose. So in this study, strong connection to one's sense of purpose was the outcome that these researchers were looking at. And they researched 73,000 people in Japan. Those with a strong connection to their ikigai, their sense of purpose, lived longer This is a lot of the work that Dan Buettner does with blue zones. If you're not familiar with the blue zones, I recommend that you look into it later today or this evening or this week sometime. It's about looking at populations around the world that have a high percentage of centenarians, people that live to 100 or more. So Dan went around the world and actually interviewed these centenarians and did some research on them. And he also has a sense of purpose in his 8 tips from the blue zones. Here is Ikigai. I love this word. I love this concept. I'd love for you all to think about what you love. So what do you love? What does the world need? Then what can you get paid for? Then what are you good at? So when your passion, your mission, your vocation, and your profession line up, it's a beautiful thing. It doesn't always happen, and sometimes you won't be paid for the things you love. You can still do them and still volunteer while getting paid for something that you're good at, that you can get a paycheck for, right? But you can still spend time on the weekend or community service doing the things that you truly love. And this will give you that sense of ikigai, reason for being, reason for getting up in the morning, deep sense of purpose. Let's look at cardiovascular disease, near and dear to my heart, as you well know, and our number one killer. Okay, so this is a review study from 2019. Sense of purpose in life is emerging as an independent risk factor for incident coronary artery disease, cerebral vascular disease, CVD, heart disease. It's causality, but this is the thing we know. So heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, BMI that's in the obesity range, high cholesterol, sedentary behavior, a diet high in saturated fats. These are known, written about risk factors for cardiovascular disease, coronary artery disease, atherosclerosis, heart disease. Okay. What this study is showing, and what I know is going to become even a stronger factor for us to consider as we move forward when working with patients, this study says a sense of purpose is important. So let's take it seriously. In medicine and as human beings walking this world, embracing everything it means to be human. So that's embracing the success, the struggles, the surprises. And we know because we can live through it, there's suffering, but we make meaning, we reach higher ground. Alzheimer's, something that many people are worried about these days, dementia, right? So not being able to remember things. People with a low sense of purpose were 2.4 more than twice as likely to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's than those who had a strong sense of purpose. Those with a strong sense of purpose were less likely to suffer disability and impairments in activities of daily living. Those are cooking, cleaning, brushing your teeth, activities of daily living, brushing your hair, toileting, getting ready. These are all called activities of daily living. We want to be able to do these till we're 100 or 104. So when we have a strong sense of purpose, we're more likely to reach that. How about something most of us have experienced? Pain. So women with a stronger sense of purpose were able to handle heat and cold stimuli applied to their skin better than those that had a lower sense of purpose. Interesting studies, right? Fascinating studies. Now let's get to mood. This is something many people have been struggling with for a while now, especially if you're in the healthcare industry, you're a physician, healthcare worker, essential worker. It's been a long, long 2 years. So what about mood and sense of purpose? In studies on depressed women, having a purpose helps to accept depression symptoms. Also protects from a decrease in quality of life and fosters resilience, being able to manage difficult situations when there's a strong sense of purpose. And I will tell you, I work with physicians and healthcare providers, And what we're trying to do is get them to connect back to their sense of purpose and why they went into medicine in the first place and what brings them joy about their job, and get them to do more of that. It's a tough road. How about work and retirement? Some of you may be retired. Some of you are thinking about retirement. So this Shell Oil study found employees that retired early at the age of 55 were more likely to die early compared to those who retired at 65. The mortality rate of those who retired at 55, adjusted for any health factors, was twice that of their still working colleagues. So if you do retire, you may want to think about a hobby. You may want to think about community service. You may want to think about continuing to use your strengths to continue to give to others around you, to work to make the world a better place, to figure your purpose and keep making strides to your purpose and living it out. I'm part Greek. There's a Greek study, 17,000 people from Greece, ages 20 to 90, huge variety. They're followed for 7 years. Risk of death increased 51% after retirement. Early retirement seemed to increase the risk of dying from cardiovascular disease. Do people lose their sense of meaning? Not sure. This is some more research that we'll need to do as the years pass. Social connections. So important. 2009, really great study, Richard Leader, the Inventure Group and MetLife. You may have heard about them before. He looked at 1,000 adults. People with a strong sense of purpose spent more time with people they loved and more time in their community activities. They have, often when you have a sense of purpose, you have your priorities in alignment, and then you match your activities to your priorities. I asked you, what do you cherish most in this life? Maybe you said your partner. Maybe you said your children. Maybe you said your parents. I don't know, your dog. Are you spending time with them, or your cat? I don't want to be considered a partial to dogs. I love cats too. I do have my dog sitting right next to me. At any rate, let's go over this good life that Richard Leader talks about. 45 to 74-year-olds describe the good life as having enough money. No one said billions of dollars, millions of dollars, enough money. Being healthy, engaging in meaningful activities, that's considered the good life. So what activities do people enjoy? Meaning-related activities are most important. Spending time with friends and family supersedes everything else, including money and health in this study. So how do you define the good life? Living in the place you feel you belong, with the people you love, doing the right work that is empowering to you, work that you feel good about, on purpose, having purpose. People who believe they have purpose in their lives are more likely to report being happy and describe themselves as living the good life. I want to share with you leaders' phases of life. You may relate to this. I know I do. So phase 1 is plateau. Well, life's running along smoothly. We're satisfied. We're comfortable. We feel safe. We could stay in this comfortable safety zone for a long time. Doesn't require any work to grow. We just keep going. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. Then something happens. There's a trigger. That's phase 2. Sudden change, new challenges. Maybe it's a diagnosis. Maybe it's a death diagnosis for you or your father or somebody, or a job change. You can think about events in life that trigger a huge change for you. These triggers are catalysts. Then you know you're out of phase 1, you're into phase 2, and then you get into phase 3. And what's that? Limbo. There's endings of that old world. There's transitions to a new way of being, with a disease, maybe without a loved one, with a new job, maybe without a partner, and there's been a divorce. There's transitions to new beginnings. There can be emotional withdrawal at this phase. You know what has been lost, and you may have grief. Maybe it's, again, being able to move your left side if you've had a stroke. There's a lot of different ways to look at loss. For me, loss of my parents. I'm in a whole new phase of life now, right? I don't have my good old mom and dad anymore. There can be immobilization, numbness, confusion. I know that happened. My mom passed, right? As everybody's gone now. What is it? I'm the one. I'm in charge of this family now. I'm the one. But think about this for yourself. This can be a breast cancer diagnosis. Many of my dear friends have even recently gone through that. And there's a lot of loss in that, and where to move forward to. So then there's the unpacking. You're exploring solutions, ways to live in the new life that you have. You're looking for answers. Sometimes there's remaining confusion and uncertainty. But often when you're unpacking, there's an energy for exploration and moving onward. You're ready. When my dad did die at 79, I definitely went through this process again. And it took me a while to get in the unpacking. It took me a while. I had to kind of live with that grief and that loss and that all those feelings. But then I got the energy to what's next? What do we do next? What's moving on? And then there's repacking. Tired from the searching, ready to make decisions, acceptance of what has happened, and ready for growth and moving beyond the comfort zone and into a new area, and attending to these areas that need your attention, and realizing this is a new beginning. We all have endings and new beginnings in life. They can be very concrete, or they can be subtle. You can think about it in your own life. So, tools for purpose. Hopefully you've had some things to think about during our time we've shared together. One thing I want to ask you to sit with today, maybe even right now, and consider, what are your gifts? What are your talents? What have you been given? What have you honed in as your skills? What are you really good at? Maybe you think about what's a higher power in your life. You could bring religion and spirituality into this for yourself. Some people no, some people yes. It's your choice. And then maybe you consider writing your obituary, but you're not required to. It's a thought. Think about what I said. Read an obituary or two. Sometimes it helps us. One thing is discuss purpose with your family and friends. Discuss this full plate living workshop, how it made you feel, what quotes resonated with you, and explore other people's purpose. Ask them questions. What's your purpose? What are your priorities? What do you cherish? Get into a conversation. And you know, I shared with you my purpose, and I've known it for a while. I didn't acknowledge it and accept it and fully live it. I knew it when I was 18, right? It came to me when I was 18, but it wasn't until a decade later, and I was at Stanford running up that dish, that it really solidified for me. But you know, not all of us are physicians and have a purpose to heal and empower, but we all have strong and very important purposes. Now, I'm sharing a photograph. Does anyone see a resemblance of that person? So that person there is my Greek grandma. She immigrated from Greece when she was 18, came with my grandpa, and they came to East Boston, if you're familiar with Boston. It was a difficult life. They had a Greek restaurant. I know that sounds so cliche. It's my life. I'm just telling you. I'm just reporting the facts. These are facts. They had a Greek restaurant, and they made it work. And they have 4 kids. Well, my mom, of course, and they all worked at the restaurant. And their goal was to put their kids through college and graduate school, and that's what they did. They made enough to send the kids to college, and they went and got their master's degrees, law degrees. Each of the 4 kids. They did extended education, and that was their proud moment. And really, though, if you asked my grandma, what is your purpose? I didn't ask her this. I was little. She died when I was in college, and actually, that was a huge loss for me, because honestly, she was my hero for growing up. She was my hero because she was an amazing woman that could bring out the best in anyone she contacted. If she was in contact with you, you felt energized. Not just her grandkids. You felt energized. You felt better. You felt like you were powerful somehow. just talking with her. This actually worked really well for the restaurant industry that they had the restaurant, because people would come not to eat the food sometimes, but to sit with her and talk with her. My mother would say all the ladies would come and sit at the booth with her, and she would just listen and help and empower. And so her gift was helping others, listening to others, trying to do what she always told me to do. Everybody is beautiful, Elizabeth. Everybody. Everybody has beauty and wisdom. Your job is to pull it out. And this was her purpose, to pull out the beauty and the wisdom in the people she engaged with. Strangers in the restaurant, loved ones, didn't matter. And that's a beautiful purpose. And it's still, to me, to this day, it impacts me. I love this photograph. This was just months before she passed away at 86, lived a full, healthy life, and then boom. So I'll leave you with some thoughts. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. Pablo Picasso. If you're having trouble identifying your purpose right now, consider these questions. What are your strengths? What do you enjoy? What brings you great joy when you're doing it? What are your priorities right now? What's your purpose? The purpose of life is to live it, to taste experience to the utmost, to reach out eagerly and without fear for newer and richer experience. Eleanor Roosevelt. So I am so grateful that you reached out today and you decided to join me in this journey and a workshop on purpose. Thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Fradys. That was very moving and impactful. I especially loved your grandmother's story. Very, very touching. Sometimes we can think back to our grandparents and see a lot of that. They weren't quite as hurried as we are now. We just kind of bypass life sometimes. Lots of thank yous in the chat. And if you can see those, I encourage you to scroll up a little bit. There's a lot of very good conversation. Just want to remind everybody that if you have any questions, please ask them now. We want to make sure that we get to them. We do have about 13 minutes for Q&A, so go ahead and pop your question. I know there was a lot of conversation going on during those phases, right? We went through phases 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. What is your recommendation when it comes to the phases? Do we want to sit, accept them, and just kind of be aware of what's happening, or do we want to work towards moving through some of them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we generally naturally move through these. If you do get really stuck in one, for example, I think the trigger, we're going along, we have the trigger. That's what moves us into 2, so you don't really control that. But going from the trigger into limbo, this is where you may spend a great deal of time in limbo, wondering, what do I do now, right? I do a work, it's probably not going to surprise you, with stroke survivors. It's a near and dear place for me. So I do groups for stroke survivors, and we talk about well-being. We actually go through all of the different steps, each week. And many of them are in this limbo when they come to me to begin their journey of well-being and realize they're on a wellness journey. We are all on a wellness journey, not just stroke survivors, but they realize that this is a journey of well-being. This isn't a journey of despair and sadness and loss, and it's all over. And we try to give some hope. So when we're in limbo, not knowing the future, it's scary here. Sometimes a friend identifying, it seems like you're in limbo, maybe even sharing this PowerPoint or just these couple slides or just this thought process. And what is it that I could do to help you? You just, first thing is, don't tell them what to do, right? You can't sit there and tell someone how to get out of limbo, but you can say, what do you think you need right now to start unpacking what is happening? This could be therapy for some, right? It's like to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Yeah. And that's absolutely, I am all for therapy and visiting a psychiatrist or psychologist if that will help you and that's what you need. A friend or a grandma or a mom or a dear colleague could help with the unpacking by just saying, maybe just talking about unpacking all this would help, and then the person would be listening. So we don't want to stay in limbo forever, right? And I guess I was wondering with my own dad's death. I was very close to him, obviously. He was so much of a mentor and a best friend for forever. So it was very hard for me, very hard. I was in this grief limbo thing for a very long time, and then suddenly it was just unpack it. But if I were there for longer, I'm guessing my husband would have said, "Look, hon, I know it's hard. He's gone. You can't call him." I used to call him almost every day, right? You can't call him, but what can you do? And help me try to see what is the future without that. Or again, it's a divorce. You could do a number of things that you've lost. So what are you going to do now? Yes, that relationship is over and you're starting a new one. So helping, the best thing you do is asking someone, what is it that I could do right now to help you either get out of limbo or help you unpack or repack? So now you're unpacking. Now, what do you think you want to do next? And then what are your strengths? How can you use them now? And help them really guide into a sense of purpose by using a lot of what we talked about today. Does this help? I see there is chatting. I can't read.
I think it does help quite a bit, actually. So thank you for addressing that. We have three questions that are so similar. I'm going to read them all at once, and then we can answer them all because they're basically in the same vein. The first one says, I don't know what I'm strong at. I wish I did. The second one says, it starts out with, wow, moving presentation, which it was wonderful. I struggle with knowing what my strengths are and figuring out where I belong. This presentation has given me a lot to think about. And then the third one, I have trouble trying to figure out what my gifts are.
I'm so glad.
So
I'm so glad you guys brought this up. I'm sorry I don't know the names of the people, but thank you for those comments. Very common, okay? So I do this in person, as I told you, in groups. Sometimes my paving groups are physicians. Sometimes they're medical students. Sometimes they're stroke survivors. Sometimes they're patients with chronic conditions. So anyway, we're all the same. So every type of group, this comes up. Physicians, stroke survivors, doesn't matter. But I don't know what I'm good at. Okay, I got you. I got your back on this. Here we go. So watch. This is my question to you then. Tell me about a time when you reached a goal. Could be at work, could be at home, it could be a long time ago, could be yesterday. You reached a goal. Tell me about a time you reached a goal. Now, if you were present with me, you would be talking, you tell me. Then I could help you identify strengths that you used when you reached that goal. So one of the best things to do is think about what time you reached the goal, what the goal was, how you reached it. Likely you used strengths to get there. Another question you can utilize if you don't like that one and it's not working for you, I would say this. Tell me about a time you were at your best. What does that mean? Tell me about a time you felt like you were empowered and you were really living fully. What were you doing? What were you doing in that moment? What were you doing at that time? Maybe you were solving a problem at home, in your family, or at work, or in a shopping center, or in the library with strangers. I don't know. But a time you felt you were really helpful. You were really yourself. You were really feeling empowered. Tell me about that time. And then we can backtrack and say, okay, so you were feeling good in that scenario because you were using creativity, because you were using your gift of connection. You were using your listening skills. You were using, and then we identify the things you were using while you were in that moment of strength. So you were in a moment of strength, in a scenario of strength, an event of strength. And then we backtrack and find the gifts and strengths you used to be in that moment. Make sense? I hope that helps people.
I think it will. So thank you for that. I also want to make sure, Amy, that we put up a link again to Paving the Path to Wellness, the workbook. I think some people can go through the workbook and probably get a deeper understanding as well. And then we have one more question. Is there a specific book by Richard Lader that you would recommend to delve deeper into his research and writings?
What's interesting, and I would have to check, but if you Google him and MetLife, you used to be able to, and they may have stopped this, but you used to be able to get a electronic version of a booklet that goes over these phases. Somebody could quickly Google this and you can see if it is still freely available. But I used to be that you could get that. Otherwise, I do not know of a published book. He had a lovely resource available online. I'm hopeful it's still available. Maybe someone has already, people are so quick, especially the young people watching. They probably Googled it and they could put the link to it right now. So if anyone's found it, please do pop it in there. But I just noticed a link is down. I can't see much on the chat, to be honest, but somehow I saw a link is down. Is that Amazon? Oh, I'm sorry.
I believe that was for Amazon.
No, I think the link actually on your website, Beth, might need to be updated. I'm going to go find the Amazon one right now and put it up.
I just put it up, so it's up from Amazon.
My
as
website,
well.
Honestly, somebody else, Sammy, he's a great friend and physician. He controls the website, so I have no idea. I'll have to ask him, and this is good information if we have a broken link. So I'm going to ask him about it today. I don't know how to even get into it.
Excellent.
Thank you, Jackie, for putting that up. Jackie put the link directly to Amazon. So thank you, Jackie.
Excellent. Thank you for that. We don't have any more questions at this time, but Kelly wrote something that I wanted to read to everyone because I do think it ties in directly to this workshop. She says, sometimes we think that our gift has to be a major life-changing thing, something that will affect so many people. Our gift can be something as simple as being able to smile at people when you walk down the street, being able to give someone a compliment. God has given us all a gift. Don't be afraid to use it, big or small. And I think that came out in your story of your grandmother. Yes, she impacted so many people, but you said sometimes she just listened.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And she just sat there and listened.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, is that giving loving kindness through a smile or through listening, it really is a gift. And if you're able to exude what is loving kindness, if you're able to exude empathy, compassion, openness, if you're able to exude appreciation of others, this is a gift in and of itself to the other person. To feel loved and understood is a powerful medicine. So if we on this line, all in this room, in this Zoom room, in this workshop, said to ourselves, today we're going to sit and listen, and we're going to really work to share compassion, loving kindness with a person that we're sitting next to. What a gift that would be to the world. Imagine if we all just did that every day. We said, all of us, at least one time today. It would be great to do it more, but at least one time today. We're going to sit, we're going to exude loving kindness. Now that's something from Jon Kabat-Zinn. That's not coined by me. I learned it with Jon Kabat-Zinn when I studied mindfulness-based stress reduction at UMass Worcester with Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn. He talks about loving kindness, which I love.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for this workshop. This was very meaningful and powerful as well. Thank you for your time. And just a reminder to everybody, we will have the slides. Actually, they're up at the link where we will be sharing a recording. So you can share this with other friends and family as well. We do want everybody to have a sense of purpose. We don't want to just keep it for ourselves. And again, there's a copy of the handout as well in the workshop link. so that you can print it and do it if you haven't done it yet. It'll make this presentation much more powerful, and then you can rewatch it and go through it. Dr. Fradys, thank you again for your time. It was a pleasure having you here. Great presentation, lots of comments. Thank you all for joining us. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.